Marcus Williams was walking his daughter to school when he heard the CEO screaming in the parking garage. Her ex-husband had a gun, demanding custody of their son. Marcus had 12 seconds to choose: protect his own child by running away, or save a stranger's family and risk everything. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Marcus Williams checked his watch for the third time as he helped his 8-year-old daughter Emma tie her shoes. 7:15 a.m. If they left in the next 5 minutes, he could drop Emma at school, make it to his construction job by 8 o'clock, and still grab a coffee on the way. "Daddy, my laces keep coming undone," Emma complained, her small fingers struggling with the worn shoelaces that Marcus kept meaning to replace. "Here, let me show you the bunny ear trick again," Marcus said patiently, kneeling beside her. The same patience he had shown her every morning for the past 3 years, ever since her mother Linda had walked out on them for a life of freedom and self-discovery, in Arizona. Emma's backpack was patched in 2 places and her winter coat was a size too small, but she was clean, fed and loved. That's what mattered to Marcus. That's all he could control in a world that seemed determined to knock them down every chance it got. Their small apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that had seen better days sometime in the 1980s. The heating was unreliable, the neighbors were loud, and the elevator worked about half the time. But it was home, and it was what Marcus could afford on his construction worker's salary. "Ready, princess?" Marcus asked, shouldering his work bag and Emma's lunchbox. "Ready, Daddy." They walked down the 3 flights of stairs, Emma chattering about her upcoming show and tell presentation about butterflies. Marcus listened with half his attention while mentally calculating bills. Rent was due in 5 days, Emma needed new shoes, and his truck had been making a weird noise that probably meant an expensive repair. The morning was crisp and clear, with that fresh autumn air that made everything seem possible. Marcus held Emma's hand as they walked the 6 blocks to Jefferson Elementary, passing the same familiar landmarks they saw every day: Mrs. Chen's corner store, the bus stop where teenagers gathered before school, the small park where Emma liked to stop and watch the squirrels. "Daddy, look." Emma pointed to a butterfly landing on a nearby flower. "It's orange and black like the ones I read about." "That's a monarch butterfly," Marcus said, remembering something from a nature documentary they had watched together. "They fly thousands of miles to find warm weather in winter." "Wow. They're so small but so brave." Marcus smiled. Emma had a way of finding wonder in the smallest things, even when their world felt like it was held together with tape and hope. At the school gate, Marcus knelt down to Emma's level for their daily goodbye ritual. "Be good, learn something amazing, and remember what?" he prompted. "Remember that you love me to the moon and back." Emma recited, throwing her arms around his neck. "That's right. And I'll be right here at 3:15 to hear all about your day." Marcus watched until Emma disappeared into the school building, then began his walk to the construction site downtown. The Morrison Industries building was going up fast, 30 floors of glass and steel that would be the new headquarters for one of the city's most successful tech companies. Marcus had been working on the project for 8 months, arriving early and staying late whenever overtime was available. Every extra dollar went toward Emma's future, a college fund that was still painfully small, but growing penny by penny. As he walked past the completed lower floors of the Morrison building, Marcus noticed increased security. There had been rumors around the construction site about threats against the CEO, something about a messy divorce and custody battle. Marcus didn't pay much attention to workplace gossip, but he had noticed the extra guards and security cameras going up around the building. He was still thinking about Emma's butterfly comment when he heard the shouting. The parking garage attached to the Morrison Industries building was usually quiet at 7:45 a.m., but today angry voices echoed off the concrete walls. Marcus paused, his construction worker instincts telling him to assess any potential danger before walking past. That's when he saw them. A woman in an expensive business suit was backed against a white BMW, her hands raised in a defensive gesture. She was impeccably dressed, tailored navy suit, designer heels, perfectly styled blonde hair, but her face was twisted with fear. The man confronting her was disheveled and clearly agitated. His hair was unkempt, his clothes wrinkled like he had slept in them, and his hands were shaking with barely controlled rage. 3 years, Sarah. 3 years I gave you everything, supported your career, took care of Jake when you worked late every night building your precious company." The man's voice cracked with emotion. Marcus recognized the woman now, Sarah Morrison, CEO of Morrison Industries. Her picture was often in the business section of the local newspaper, usually accompanied by articles about her company's success or her philanthropic work. "David, please," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her obvious fear. We've been through this. The marriage didn't work. We both know that. But Jake needs both his parents. Jake needs his father. David shouted, and that's when Marcus saw the gun. It was partially concealed in David's right hand, but the metallic glint was unmistakable. Marcus's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a domestic argument. This was a life-threatening situation. Marcus should have called 911 immediately. He should have stayed hidden and let the professionals handle it. He had Emma to think about, a job to get to, his own life to protect. But he couldn't just stand there and watch someone get hurt. You destroyed our family. David continued, his voice rising. You chose that company over us, over me, over our son. And now you want to take Jake away from me completely? The custody arrangement gives you weekends and... Weekends? David laughed bitterly. I get to be a part-time father while you get everything else. The house, the money, the respect, our son's daily life. It's not fair, Sarah. It's not fair, and you know it. Sarah's eyes darted around the garage, looking for escape routes or help. That's when she spotted Marcus standing near the entrance. Their eyes met for just a moment, and Marcus saw something that cut straight to his heart. The same desperate fear he had seen in Emma's eyes during thunderstorms, the kind of terror that makes you realize how fragile life really is. Marcus made a decision that would change everything. Hey there, Marcus called out, stepping into the garage with his hands visible and his voice calm. Beautiful morning, isn't it? David spun around, startled by the interruption. Get out of here. This is private property. I work here, Marcus said truthfully, gesturing to his construction gear. Just heading to the job site. He kept his tone conversational, non-threatening. You folks having car trouble? I'm pretty good with engines if you need help. Marcus was positioning himself strategically, moving slowly toward Sarah while keeping David's attention focused on him. He had no formal training in crisis negotiation, but he had grown up in rough neighborhoods where de-escalation was a survival skill. This doesn't concern you, David said, but Marcus noticed his grip on the gun had loosened slightly. Just walk away and pretend you didn't see anything. I'd like to, but I can't do that, Marcus replied, taking another small step forward. See, I've got a daughter about to start her day, and I promised I'd always do the right thing so she could be proud of her old man. Your daughter has nothing to do with this, David snapped. Actually, she does. Marcus was close enough now that he could probably reach David if necessary, but he kept talking instead. She asked me once why some families stay together and others break apart. You know what I told her? David didn't answer, but he was listening. I told her that love isn't about owning someone. It's about wanting them to be happy, even when that happiness doesn't include you. Marcus glanced at Sarah, who was watching with a mixture of hope and terror. Seems to me you love your son enough to want him to have a mother who's alive and a father who's not in prison. You don't understand, David said, his voice breaking. She took everything from me. My family, my home, my purpose. What am I supposed to do now? You're supposed to be the father Jake needs, Marcus said gently. And right now, Jake needs a father who makes good choices, who shows him how to handle difficult situations with dignity. For a moment, Marcus thought he was getting through. David's shoulders sagged and the gun dropped to his side. Then Sarah's phone rang. The sudden electronic sound shattered the fragile peace Marcus had been building. David's rage flared back to life, and he raised the gun again. Turn it off. David screamed. Always working, always busy, always choosing that damn company over family. David, please? Sarah reached for her phone to silence it. Don't touch it. David was spiraling now, past the point of rational conversation. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Even now, even with a gun pointed at you, that company is more important. Marcus realized they had run out of time for talking. Everything slowed down in that moment before violence erupted. Marcus could see David's finger tightening on the trigger, could see Sarah frozen in terror, could hear the phone still ringing with its urgent electronic tone. Time expanded and contracted simultaneously. Marcus thought about Emma, probably settling into her first-period classroom right now, eager to share her butterfly knowledge with her classmates. He thought about the college fund that would never grow, the bedtime stories he would never read, the graduation he would never attend. But he also thought about Jake Morrison, a little boy who was about to lose his mother, and possibly his father too when David inevitably went to prison for murder. Marcus threw himself forward. The first gunshot was deafeningly loud in the enclosed concrete space. Marcus felt the bullet tear through his left shoulder, spinning him partially around, but he managed to collide with David and send them both crashing to the ground. The gun skittered across the concrete floor and both men scrambled for it. David was younger and desperate, but Marcus was stronger from years of construction work. They rolled and grappled, Marcus's injured shoulder screaming in pain with every movement. "Help! Security! Someone help us!" Sarah was screaming, finally finding her voice. Marcus managed to kick the gun further away, but David wasn't finished. He pulled a knife from his jacket pocket. Apparently, he had come prepared for multiple scenarios. The blade caught Marcus across the ribs before he could dodge. It wasn't deep, but it was painful and disorienting. David raised the knife again, aiming for Marcus's chest. That's when Sarah Morrison surprised everyone. Instead of running for safety, she grabbed a tire iron from a nearby maintenance cart and swung it at David's arm. The impact made him drop the knife and howl in pain. "You crazy bitch!" David snarled, turning toward Sarah with murderous intent. Marcus, bleeding from 2 wounds now, launched himself at David one more time. This tackle was more successful. They went down hard, with David's head hitting the concrete with a sickening thud. David went limp. Security guards came running from multiple directions, followed by police sirens in the distance. Marcus rolled off the unconscious David and lay on his back, breathing hard and feeling his strength ebbing away with his blood. Sarah knelt beside him, pressing her hands against his shoulder wound to try to stop the bleeding. Her expensive suit was already ruined with his blood, but she didn't seem to care. "Stay with me," she said urgently. "Help is coming. You're going to be okay." Marcus managed a weak smile. "Is he?" "Unconscious but breathing. You stopped him. You saved my life. Your son." Marcus whispered. "Jake. He still has his mom." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "And he'll know that a hero made sure of that." The paramedics arrived within minutes, followed by police, FBI agents, and what seemed like half the city's emergency response team. As they loaded Marcus onto a stretcher, he caught Sarah's eye one more time. "My daughter Emma," he said weakly. "Jefferson Elementary. Someone needs to pick her up at 3:15. "I'll take care of it," Sarah promised. "I'll take care of everything." As the ambulance pulled away, Marcus lost consciousness thinking about butterflies, small creatures that could fly thousands of miles, brave enough to cross oceans despite their fragile wings. Just like his Emma. Just like him. Marcus woke up 36 hours later to the sound of quiet conversation and the smell of flowers. His left shoulder was immobilized in a complex brace, his ribs were bandaged and every part of his body ached. The first thing he saw was Emma, curled up asleep in a hospital chair that was far too big for her. She was wearing clean clothes that weren't hers and holding a stuffed animal he had never seen before. The second thing he saw was Sarah Morrison, sitting in another chair with a young boy on her lap. The boy, Jake, presumably, was also asleep, his head resting against his mother's shoulder. "Hi," Marcus croaked, his throat dry from the breathing tube. Sarah looked up immediately, relief flooding her face. "Oh, thank God you're awake. We've been so worried." "Emma is fine. She's been a trooper. I picked her up from school yesterday, and she's been right here with you ever since." Sarah smiled softly. "She told me all about monarch butterflies and how brave they are. I think she gets that trait from her father." Marcus tried to sit up, but pain shot through his shoulder. "How long?" "A day and a half. You lost a lot of blood and the shoulder surgery took longer than expected. But the doctors say you're going to make a full recovery." A nurse came in to check Marcus's vitals and the sound woke Emma up. Her eyes went wide when she saw her father looking at her. "Daddy? You're awake." She started to jump up but then remembered where she was and approached the bed carefully. "Are you okay? Does it hurt?" "I'm okay, princess. Just a little sore." Marcus reached out with his good arm to touch her face. "I'm sorry I scared you." Mrs. Sarah explained everything. "She said you were being a hero like in the movies." Emma looked over at Sarah with admiration. "She's been taking really good care of me. We had pizza last night and she has a big house with a swimming pool." Marcus looked at Sarah questioningly. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did." Sarah's voice was firm. "You saved my life, Marcus. More than that, you saved Jake's mother. The least I could do was make sure Emma was safe and comfortable while you recovered." Jake stirred in his mother's arms and opened sleepy eyes. He was about the same age as Emma, with dark hair and his mother's intelligent eyes. "Is this the hero man?" Jake asked quietly. "This is Marcus Williams," Sarah said gently. "He's the man who made sure Mommy stayed safe." Jake slipped off his mother's lap and approached the hospital bed shyly. "Thank you for saving my mom. She's the best mom in the world." Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion. You're welcome, buddy. Your mom is pretty special. Over the next few hours, Marcus learned what had happened after the ambulance took him away. David Morrison was in custody, facing charges of attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and making terroristic threats. His mental health would be evaluated, but he was likely looking at a long prison sentence. The FBI said he'd been planning this for weeks, Sarah explained when the children were distracted with coloring books. He'd been following me, learning my routines, waiting for the right opportunity. If you hadn't been there? She shuddered. But I was there, Marcus said simply. That's what matters. No, what matters is that you chose to get involved. Most people would have walked away, called 911 from a safe distance. You put yourself in danger for a complete stranger. Marcus was quiet for a moment, watching Emma and Jake coloring together at the small table near the window. I keep thinking about what would have happened to Jake if things had gone differently. Every kid deserves to have their parents, even if those parents aren't together anymore. Sarah followed his gaze. Emma is lucky to have you as a father. Sometimes I wonder if I'm enough for her. Her mother left us 3 years ago, and it's been just the two of us ever since. I try my best, but... Marcus, your daughter spent 2 days telling me about all the things you do together, all the ways you take care of her, all the reasons she thinks you're the best daddy in the world. You are more than enough. That evening, after visiting hours were over and Emma had reluctantly gone home with Sarah again, Marcus lay in his hospital bed thinking about the future. He would be out of work for at least 6 weeks while his shoulder healed. Workers' compensation would cover some of his lost wages, but not all. The medical bills, even with insurance, would be substantial. But he was alive, Emma was safe, and he had done the right thing. Sometimes that had to be enough. The next morning, Marcus woke to find Sarah sitting beside his bed with a cup of coffee and a folder full of papers. Emma and Jake were at the hospital's playroom with a volunteer, giving the adults time to talk. How are you feeling? Sarah asked. Better. Still sore, but better. How are you holding up? Sarah was quiet for a moment. I keep thinking about what could have happened. Not just to me but to Jake. If David had, if you hadn't? She shook her head. I can't even finish that thought. But it didn't happen. You're both safe. Because of you. Sarah set down her coffee and opened the folder. I want to talk to you about something important. I've been thinking about this since yesterday, and I hope you'll hear me out before you say no. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Okay. I want to offer you a job. Head of corporate security at Morrison Industries. Marcus stared at her. Sarah, I appreciate the gesture, but I'm a construction worker. I don't know anything about corporate security. You know how to assess danger. You know how to make split-second decisions under pressure. You know how to put other people's safety before your own. Sarah leaned forward. Those are the exact qualities I need in someone responsible for protecting my company and my employees. I don't have any formal training. We'll provide training. The best money can buy. FBI consultants, former Secret Service agents, the works. Sarah pulled out a sheet of paper. This is what the position pays. Marcus looked at the number and nearly fell out of his hospital bed. It was more than 3 times what he made in construction, with benefits that would secure Emma's future. Sarah, this is too much. You don't owe me anything like this. It's not about owing you. It's about recognizing value. Sarah's voice was passionate now. Do you know how many corporate security heads I've fired in the past 5 years? 7. They were all formally trained, all came with impressive credentials, and all of them failed when it mattered. How did they fail? They thought about liability first, company policy second, and human lives third. When David was making threats 6 months ago, they recommended I get a restraining order and hire a bodyguard. They treated it like a legal problem instead of a human problem. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. You didn't think about liability or company policy. You saw someone in danger and acted. That's exactly the kind of judgment I need protecting my people. Marcus was overwhelmed. I need time to think about this. Of course. But there's something else. Sarah sat back down. Jake has been asking if Emma can come live with us permanently. What? Not permanently, Sarah clarified quickly. I mean, he's been asking if you both could live with us. We have a guest house on the property that's bigger than most people's main homes. It has its own kitchen, living room, 3 bedrooms. You and Emma could have your own space while still being part of our daily lives. Marcus felt like he was in some kind of dream. Why would you want that? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Because Jake has been happier in the past 2 days than I've seen him in 2 years. He and Emma play together like brother and sister. And honestly, I've been happier too. Having people around who genuinely care about each other, who look out for each other, it reminds me what family is supposed to feel like. Sarah. I know it sounds crazy. I know we barely know each other. But sometimes the most important decisions happen in an instant, and you trust your gut. Sarah wiped her eyes. My gut tells me that you and Emma belong in our lives. Before Marcus could respond, Emma and Jake came running into the room, both excited about something they had made in the playroom. Daddy, look. Emma held up a drawing of 4 stick figures standing in front of a big house. It's you and me and Jake and Mrs. Sarah. Jake said maybe we could all be a family. Jake nodded enthusiastically. Mom, I told Emma about the pool and the big backyard and the treehouse Grandpa built. She said she's never seen a real treehouse. Marcus looked at his daughter's hopeful face, then at Jake's excitement, then at Sarah's tearful smile. In the space of 2 days, his entire world had shifted. What do you think, Princess? Marcus asked Emma. Would you like to live in a big house with Jake and Mrs. Sarah? Can we still have our daddy-daughter movie nights? Every Friday, just like always. Emma looked at Jake. And can Jake join us sometimes? If he wants to. I want to. Jake said immediately. Emma nodded seriously. Then I think it would be really nice. We could be like a family. Marcus looked at Sarah. I guess we're doing this. Sarah's smile could have powered the entire hospital. I guess we are. The guest house on the Morrison estate was everything Sarah had promised and more. Emma had her own room with a window seat where she could read and watch the birds in the garden. Marcus had a home office where he could work on security protocols and threat assessments when he wasn't traveling with Sarah to corporate events. Most importantly, Emma and Jake had become inseparable. They walked to school together, played in the treehouse together, and had convinced both parents to let them have sleepover nights in the main house's family room. Marcus's new job had challenges he never could have imagined. Corporate security wasn't just about identifying physical threats, it involved cybersecurity, employee background checks, executive protection, and complex risk assessments for international business trips. But Sarah had kept her promise about training. Marcus spent 3 months working with former FBI agents and Secret Service personnel, learning everything from threat assessment to emergency response protocols. His construction background actually helped. He understood building layouts, structural vulnerabilities, and crowd flow patterns in ways that surprised his instructors. You have good instincts, Agent Patricia Webb told him after a particularly intensive simulation exercise. Most people overthink these situations. You see the threat, assess the options, and act. That's exactly what kept Mrs. Morrison alive 6 months ago. The attempted murder had become something of a legend in corporate security circles. The story of a construction worker who saved a CEO's life had been featured in several industry publications, always focusing on Marcus's split-second decision-making and natural protective instincts. But for Marcus, the real reward wasn't the recognition or even the dramatically improved financial situation. It was watching Emma thrive in ways he had never imagined possible. Daddy, can I join the robotics club at school? Emma asked one evening as they were having dinner in their guest house kitchen. Jake was with them as had become routine most nights. Robotics club sounds expensive, Marcus replied automatically, his old financial anxieties still surfacing occasionally. Actually, Jake piped up, Mom already talked to the school about sponsoring the whole robotics program. All the kids get to participate for free now. Marcus looked questioningly at Sarah, who was helping herself to more salad. You sponsored the robotics program? Morrison Industries needs more kids interested in technology. It's a good investment in the future. Sarah's tone was casual, but Marcus could see she was pleased with herself. This was how Sarah operated now, quietly ensuring that Emma had every opportunity, while making it seem like natural business decisions or community service. The free after-school tutoring program, the coincidental scholarship opportunities, the company-sponsored summer camps that happened to align perfectly with Emma's interests. Marcus had learned to pick his battles. Sarah's generosity came from genuine care, not pity, and Emma was blossoming under the attention and opportunities. Can I join too? Jake asked. I mean, I know I live here, but can I still join the robotics club? Of course you can, Sarah laughed. You and Emma can be a team. After dinner, while the kids were working on homework at the kitchen table, Marcus and Sarah sat on the back porch watching the sunset. This had become their routine. A few minutes of adult conversation while the children were occupied but still within sight. Any word on David's trial? Marcus asked. Sarah's expression grew serious. His lawyer is pushing for a plea deal. Probably 15 years with possibility of parole in 10. The prosecutor wants to take it to trial, but honestly, I just want it to be over. How's Jake handling it? Better than I expected. The family counselor says having a stable, positive male role model in his daily life has made a huge difference. Sarah glanced at Marcus. That would be you in case that wasn't clear. Marcus felt a familiar warmth in his chest. Over the past 6 months, he had become something between a stepfather and a favored uncle to Jake. The boy had been starved for positive male attention, and Marcus found that his natural parenting instincts extended easily to include Sarah's son. He's a good kid. Both of them are. They're lucky to have you. Sarah was quiet for a moment. We're all lucky to have you. There was something in her tone that made Marcus look at her more carefully. In the soft evening light, he could see emotion in her eyes that went beyond gratitude or friendship. Sarah. I know this is complicated, she said quickly. I know we started this whole arrangement because of extraordinary circumstances. But Marcus, I need you to know that having you and Emma in our lives hasn't just been good for Jake. It's been good for me too. Marcus felt his heart rate increase. What are you saying? I'm saying that somewhere between that morning in the parking garage and now, my feelings changed. You're not just Jake's role model or Emma's security or my employee. Sarah took a deep breath. You're the man I look forward to seeing every morning and the last person I want to talk to every night. You're the person I trust with my life and my son's life and my company's future. Marcus stared at her. Sarah. I know it's complicated, she repeated. I know there are professional boundaries and practical considerations. But I also know that life is fragile and unpredictable, and when you find something real, something worth fighting for, you don't let it slip away because of complications. Before Marcus could respond, Emma's voice called from the kitchen. Daddy? Jake and I finished our homework. Can we watch a movie? We'll be right there, Marcus called back, then looked at Sarah. We should talk about this more. Yes, we should. But Marcus. Sarah stood up and touched his hand briefly. Whatever complications we need to work through, I want to work through them. Because all of this, feels like the family I never knew I was looking for. As they walked back into the house together, Marcus realized that Sarah was right. The four of them had become a family, not through traditional means or conventional timelines, but through shared experiences, mutual care, and the kind of trust that only comes from people who have faced danger together and chosen to protect each other. The Morrison Industries annual gala was held in the ballroom of the city's most exclusive hotel. Marcus, wearing his first custom-tailored tuxedo, stood near the back of the room scanning for potential security threats while simultaneously keeping an eye on Sarah, who was working the room with her usual grace and business acumen. It was strange how comfortable he had become in these high-society events. A year ago, Marcus Williams couldn't have imagined himself in a room full of millionaires and politicians, responsible for the safety of some of the most powerful people in the city. Uncle Marcus. Jake appeared at his elbow, looking sharp in his own small tuxedo. Emma and I found the chocolate fountain. Just don't eat so much that you make yourselves sick, Marcus warned, then smiled at how natural the Uncle Marcus title had become. Jake had started using it about 4 months ago, and it always made Marcus's heart swell. We won't. Emma's being very responsible and limiting us to 3 strawberries each. Jake grinned. She says that's what a good event planner would do. Emma had become fascinated with event planning after watching Sarah organize several corporate functions. At 9 years old, she was already showing remarkable organizational skills and attention to detail. Where is Emma now? Marcus asked. Talking to Mayor Henderson about butterfly gardens and city parks. She has charts. Marcus chuckled. Emma's butterfly obsession had evolved into a broader interest in environmental conservation, and she was becoming quite the little activist. Mr. Williams? A reporter from the Business Journal approached with a photographer. Could I get a quick interview about the Morrison Industries' security innovations? Marcus had learned to handle media attention with the same calm assessment he brought to potential threats. 5 minutes and no photos of the children. As he answered questions about corporate security best practices and threat prevention protocols, Marcus caught sight of Sarah across the room. She was speaking with a group of potential investors, but she looked over and met his eyes. The smile she gave him was warm and personal, different from her professional expressions. They had been officially dating for 3 months now, though the relationship had been developing gradually for much longer. The transition from employee and employer to partners in both business and life had required careful navigation, but they had managed it with typical Morrison family determination. One more question, Mr. Williams, the reporter said. There are rumors that you and Ms. Morrison have become personally involved. Any comment? Marcus's media training kicked in. Ms. Morrison and I worked closely together to ensure the safety and security of Morrison Industries. Our professional relationship is built on mutual respect and shared commitment to protecting the people we serve. It was a perfectly diplomatic non-answer that revealed nothing while offending no one. After the reporter moved on, Marcus resumed his security scan of the room. That's when he noticed someone who didn't belong. Near the main entrance, partially obscured by a pillar, stood a man in an ill-fitting tuxedo. He was trying to blend in with the other guests, but several things marked him as out of place. His shoes were wrong, construction boots spray-painted black. His posture was too rigid, suggesting possible military or law enforcement background. And most importantly, his attention was focused entirely on Sarah rather than the general social mixing that characterized legitimate attendees. Marcus spoke quietly into his radio earpiece. "Control, we have a possible uninvited guest near the main entrance. Male, approximately 40, dark hair, poorly fitted formal wear. Can you run the guest list for anyone matching that description?" "Negative on the guest list, Marcus. Security cameras show he entered through the service entrance about 10 minutes ago." Marcus was already moving, weaving through the crowd with practiced efficiency. He needed to intercept this person before he got close to Sarah, but without causing a scene that would disrupt the gala. "Excuse me, sir," Marcus said, approaching the man from his blind side. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Marcus Williams, head of security for Morrison Industries." The man turned, and Marcus immediately recognized the look of someone who had been caught but was trying to brazen it out. "Oh, hello. James Patterson. I'm with Hartley Investments." It was a lie, but Marcus played along while subtly positioning himself between the man and Sarah. "Hartley Investments? I thought I knew all of Ms. Morrison's business associates. What brings you to the gala tonight?" "Just networking, you know. Looking for opportunities." Marcus noticed the man's hands were shaking slightly, and there was a bulge in his jacket that could be a weapon. "That's wonderful. Tell me, how did you hear about tonight's event?" It was in the newspaper." Another lie. The gala location and details had been kept deliberately private for security reasons. "Control," Marcus spoke quietly into his earpiece. "I need uniform backup at the main entrance, and alert Ms. Morrison's detail that we may need to move her to the secure area." The man's eyes widened as he realized he had been made. "Look, I just want to talk to her. I just want to ask her some questions about." "Sir, I'm going to need you to come with me." Marcus's voice was calm but firm. "We can discuss this privately in the security office." That's when the man reached for whatever was in his jacket. Marcus reacted instantly, grabbing the man's wrist before he could draw whatever weapon he was carrying. The struggle was brief but intense. The man was clearly trained, but Marcus had the advantage of surprise and better positioning. Within 30 seconds, Marcus had the would-be attacker face down on the floor with his arms secured behind his back. The weapon turned out to be a digital recorder, not a gun, but Marcus's threat assessment had been correct. This was someone with malicious intent towards Sarah. Hotel security and off-duty police officers who were working the event converged on the scene. The entire incident had been handled so efficiently that most of the gala attendees hadn't even noticed the disturbance. "Marcus." Sarah appeared at his side, Jake and Emma close behind her. "Are you all right? What happened?" "Uninvited guest with recording equipment and some questionable intentions," Marcus replied, accepting help to stand up from one of the security officers. "Nothing we couldn't handle." As the would-be intruder was led away, he called back over his shoulder, "This isn't over, Sarah. People deserve to know the truth about what your company really does." Sarah's expression was puzzled. "I have no idea what he's talking about." "We'll figure it out," Marcus assured her. "For now, let's get you and the kid somewhere secure while we make sure he was working alone." As they made their way to the hotels,